when David Alan Arnold is on, the visual of him wearing that Indiana Jones kind of hat is worth videographing. So thanks for always running me by a Zoom and whatnot there, David.
Awesome. It's always great to talk to you.
You are Airborne Camera on Instagram, and because of that, you've got a lot of gigs coming up. Firstly, how's the cinematography been since we last talked?
You know, I'm busier than ever. It's a great time to be alive. There is so much happening with internet, social media, traditional television, movies. It's awesome. Last year was one of my busiest years ever.
Well, I know that you're in LA, you're in California, and I don't know if you got those stunning visuals of the fireworks going off all over LA, but I saw that on their social media for sure.
Yeah, it is a very busy time of year at the moment. I'm going to be filming another Boston Marathon. So if anyone...
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Tell me about that. So how many have you filmed, and did you film the tragedy of 2013, or were you not on that one particularly?
No, I started filming Boston marathons, I think 2 years after the bombing.
Okay.
And it was kind of shocking to see an entire city come out to participate in the marathon.
Definitely.
I've done many Los Angeles marathons, and we get a little bit of a crowd, but it's nothing like Boston. Boston, the streets are lined with 1 million people. And
have you ever gotten the chance to do a New York City marathon?
What's that?
Have you ever gotten the chance to do a New York City marathon?
I haven't. What's that like?
Oh my gosh. Well, they line up all the different boroughs, and it's just fun. And you have the helicopters overhead. It's great. But congrats on getting the Boston Marathon. It's a huge deal every year up in Boston, and to videograph it must have a feeling. As a West Coaster also, what's it like filming on the East Coast something of that magnitude?
It's just the energy of it. So for people who haven't seen this on television, the marathons, they put cameras in front of the lead runners. So I'm in a pickup truck, and I have a gyro stabilized camera system, and I am rolling in front of the lead female runners, and for 26 miles.
Wow.
And like I said, the Boston Marathon is unique because so many people come out, just thousands and thousands and thousands. I think they get about 1 million people that come out and line the streets. And so we're with the lead runners and we're rolling in our pickup truck. And on either side of the road, there's just thousands of people screaming their heads off to cheer on.
I think you must have been in a year, because an American woman won one of the years of racing, didn't she? So you filmed her winning that race.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing. And it was one of the first Americans in quite a while, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
And I'm trying to remember her name. I'll figure that out eventually. But it was a great accomplishment for her.
Yeah. So, it's an incredible thing to witness, to watch runners push themselves for 26 miles. There's so much strategy involved. And the world of running, they watch these events, and it's just such a big deal for anyone to compete at that level. And what it takes to win a race like that is it's an incredible thing to witness.
Well, let's talk about then the have you ever done the aerial of it, or mainly just in front of the runners type of?
No, I'm always in a pickup truck with a big gyro stabilized telescopic lens.
That's so cool.
And it's interesting because the truck is equipped with sound equipment. We usually have a reporter or reporters on board. And so that's kind of neat for me, because I don't come from the world of running. I'm just a cameraman. So I get to listen to the commentators who in the Boston Marathon, I have 2 reporters, one on either side of me in the truck.
Oh, wow.
And so they're timing the runners, how fast their miles are, what's happening with the strategy within the race. Sometimes the runners will team up to try and push the pace. as a strategy to win. And so to hear them talking about the nuts and bolts of the strategy and how fast or slow they're running is really, really neat to witness all that and to get to hear the story behind this crazy effort.
What's the security like, even as a videographer? Because the runners have to put their stuff in plastic bags, and it gets really crazy. Is there much security protocol for you guys, or have they eased off now years later?
Oh, not at all. No, the security at the Boston Marathon is intense, and there's many levels of it. All kinds of government agencies come out and make sure that nothing bad happens at the race, and it's really impressive. So we were watching today. The Boston Marathon is going to be on Monday, and today we were watching a lot of the security stuff that's already being done.
Wow. So the security has not lined up at all. Okay. I think that's a good thing. But also, these runners, I know they just want to run, so it's a catch-22 for them if they want to undergo all that. But did they ever run past Fenway Park? Because I don't know if you know this, but Fenway has a game at 11 a.m. It's Patriots Day up there in Boston also. So they have the 11 a.m. game. And I don't know, I've never interviewed anybody about this. Do they run past Fenway as the game's going on?
I'll have to look at the map and see how close they get to the stadium.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing it as we're making our way in from Hopkinton, 26 miles into downtown Boston.
Well, I'm sure downtown gets crazy and all the cheering and everything. And with all those sound effects, you probably pick up everything down that finish line there.
It's really amazing. There is a college that we go past. So all the girls come out from the college and are cheering on the runners. It's an incredible energy, and I'll try and do some recordings. I can post some stuff on Instagram and stuff, so people can
would love that. By the way, you got to follow David Alan
like.
Arnold on Instagram because he posts some of the best stuff. Are you still a conservative? I have to ask you that because I feel like you're a big voice for the conservative movement here.
I could be, I guess. I kind of think I'm more like, I'm just not very political. And so I kind of have a zero tolerance for political BS. And I approach politics with a great sense of humor. So
I see that too. I love some of the stuff you post on that. Okay. And I got to ask you about Above the Clouds. How's that book? Has it evolved into something more? Did you do an audiobook for it? Like how are your books coming along? Because you're an author also.
Books are coming along. What Lies Above the Clouds is my second book, and I did do an audiobook for it. And I think it's shocking to a lot of people because it's a true crime book, and it's the reason that I'm writing books. It's the reason that I'm on social media is because of crimes that I witnessed at a school bus stop. And for years, I fought to get the authorities to clean it up and make the kids safe, and they wouldn't do it. And so one of my only tools that I had after that was to make the story public. And so I wrote the book, What Lies Above the Clouds. And I think to begin with, it's just very shocking to people. People read the stories in the book and they usually ask me, is this real or is this a novel? And I think
so real. You've gotten death threats for it, haven't you?
Oh yeah. It is a shocking look at organized crime and political corruption and things that should never, ever be allowed to happen at a school bus stop. So if your listeners want to check it out, I highly recommend it. My books are endorsed by Hollywood TV producers, creators of The Deadliest Catch, and one of the co-authors of Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Wow.
And What Lies Above the Clouds really lays open the scene of organized crime at a school bus stop and what that is like day to day.
But tell us why that impacted you, because wasn't that your son's school bus stop, or was that another one just in the community?
No, he wasn't in school. He was too young at the time.
Okay.
But it's in our neighborhood. And that was the problem that I had. It was a very corrupt, very, very dangerous situation. There was at one point in time, there was an illegal business at the school bus stop. And at one point in time, there was a guy on the most wanted list who was at the school bus stop. And I could not get police to come in and clean it up and shut down the illegal business and make the kids safe. And so my conundrum was, I understood that these were dangerous people and that they were making a lot of money illegally, and they didn't want to stop their illegal business. And I understood that all the greedy players in the community wanted a piece of the action. They didn't care about making the kids safe. They just wanted to keep making money. And so everyone had to choose what was right and wrong and what they were willing to tolerate. And I just wound up in a situation where I needed to make the town safe for my son and for the other kids at the school bus stop. Children have a right to be able to stand at a gathering place like a school bus stop and not be exposed to criminal activity. That's like a
David,
basic.
I know you're very public about your fight to have your son in your life. And how has that been? How are you two doing? And it seems like things are going well for you guys.
Yeah. I love my little one, love spending time with them. And there have been efforts over the years to take him away from me, and that never should have happened. And I think in the end, it's going to work out really well.
All right, well, let's move on to other adventures, because after you're done the Boston Marathon, the new season of Deadliest Catch, who endorses What Lies Above the Clouds, is airing on Tuesday nights. So it's a big week for you, David.
It is. So Boston Marathon will be live on Monday with the lead.
What channel, by the way?
That's CBS. So I know here in Boston, it's on WBZ.
Okay, WBZ, yes.
And I'm sure it's on the internet. I don't know exactly where people can watch it, but I think if you Google it, you probably can see some different places you can watch it. And so we'll do that live. And then on Tuesday is the season premiere of my 18th year of Deadliest Catch.
Amazing. How was that season? Was there any crazy stories you could sort of leak or tell me before it airs, or is there embargo?
Yeah, I can tell you. Well, I can't talk about stories that are in the show until they've aired. But
behind the scenes look then.
Yeah, but I can tell you that I'm always amazed, being the helicopter cameraman of Deadliest Catch, at what goes on up there. It's just an incredible, dangerous way to make a living. And it's such an awesome spectacle every year to see these men go out in these boats and, take big risks to make good money. And, fishing in the Bering Sea for Alaskan crab. And this season is extraordinary because on top of everything else, they're having trouble with getting permission to catch the crab. That's all regulated and controlled. And so the quotas have gone down. And so that's one of many things that the fishermen are having to struggle with this year. So I think this season of Deadliest Catch is going to be an amazing thing to watch.
Well, any aficionados of Deadliest Catch, you want to tune into that. I've never asked you this. Have you ever witnessed an amputation that needed to happen because of the dangers, or not really?
I think everyone who fishes in Alaska for crab, I think they've all been touched by the danger, or they've lost friends or family members to accidents and storms and boats capsizing and sinking. And it's a very heroic environment. It's a very tough fishery, physically just draining and demanding. And then the Bering Sea is always trying to kill them and sink their boat. And that water is freezing. So if you just fall into that water, you may not survive for more than a minute because
as a videographer, do you feel the stress that they do in a sense because you're watching this unfold through a different lens?
I certainly do. Yeah, I definitely worry about the fishermen who I know who are going out on the boats. It's a dangerous place for me to fly in a helicopter. And so it's just a dangerous environment to be in. And it's awesome. Things like that, when nature has that much power to kill you, it makes you feel humble and small, and it makes you appreciate things.
All right. I don't want to put you on the spot about the producers, but I have to believe that they kind of like when things get rough because that's the whole point of the show, isn't it? Like if something, maybe they don't want them to be harmed, but it boosts the ratings, no?
Um, I think that the producers over the years, they created a show about these amazing fishermen who fish in a really dangerous place. And it's just something that never gets old. Deadliest Catch is very, very respected in the world of reality television. It's just one of those shows where they don't have to script and fake things because it's just flat out dangerous, and it's a thrilling adventure for these guys to enter a dangerous realm and try and catch those crabs. And the crabs are worth so much money that anyone without a college degree can go up there and just work their butt off and face all those dangers and can make a big paycheck. And so it's almost like digging for gold. It's something that everyone can relate to. The struggle to earn a living, the chance to make that much money, but also to have to endure the dangers to get it. And so they don't really have to, in a sense, they don't really have to put on a show. They're basically just there to film what happens.
David Alan Arnold like I do. I only met you once, but I feel like I know you through our last few years here. You love adventure, so I feel like filming an adventure like Deadliest Catch is literally right up your alley.
Yeah, it's definitely an amazing thing to be a part of. I'm very proud to have been flying for Deadliest Catch for 18 years. And
is that around its inception, or did you join a couple of years into production?
No, I started season 1 of the show 18 years ago. And I'm one of the only people on the crew to have worked on every season for 18 years.
And your Emmy award for that, didn't you get an Emmy for that?
Yep. Very cool. We've won a lot of Emmy awards over the years for that show. And it's just an awesome thing to be a part of. And anywhere I go, I can tell people that I fly for Monday Night Football or for the World Series or for the Super Bowl. And they like to hear about that. But when I tell people that I fly for a TV show called Deadliest Catch, they always just get wide-eyed and they always have questions. And what's it like out there? And is it really as dangerous as they make it look on TV? And people are just generally awestruck by how these fishermen work in such a dangerous place to make all that money. And people are just fascinated by it, and they really respect. I think that's really what it is. They respect that these are blue collar guys. They're going out, they're taking big risks to make a lot of money. And everyone just loves that concept and the fact that in a world of risk management and lawyers and 48-page contracts and liability, people just love that there's guys out there adventuring, going to a dangerous place and seeking this huge reward that can pay for their living and their families. And it's just something that people universally love. And so I love to be a part of that show.
Well, I'm a sports guy, so anytime you fly over, any Monday Night Football, I am there. And by the way, you run contests, if I'm not mistaken, for those who spot you on Monday Night Football, right? Is that going to happen again this year? You run contests at times too. Like if they tag you on Instagram, you give them a signed copy of the book, I believe.
That's one of my favorite things to do. I love, like we were talking about politics, I just love humor. I love funny things. So one of my favorite things to do is to do caption contests. I just put a funny picture up or a video and I let people write their captions in, and whoever really makes me laugh, I send them a signed copy of my book.
All right. We talked about this last time, but how has pandemic affected the production of all these different things you do? And are things getting back to normal in the videography production world that you're in?
It's interesting. I think a lot of things are getting very much back to normal. And I think that people are sort of experiencing that the coronavirus lockdown was really much more political than medical. And that's why so many of the rules didn't make sense for 2 years. That's why so many of the mandates, things that people were required to do to either go to work or go watch a football game or whatever it is. I mean, New York was in the news because the basketball players weren't allowed to go and play basketball unless they were vaccinated, but then they could go in and watch the game anyways. without being vaccinated. And it just, none of it made sense. And it just seemed like goofy government politics, more so than a life and death medical issue. And so I think a lot of things are getting back to normal as they should. And, I think that I think some of the cities and states may never be the same, really. I mean,
True.
I think millions of people are leaving New York and California because of the crazy lockdowns that just went on for so long, and not in a meaningful way, not in a way that made sense to people.
All right, I gotta ask you this because I know your fans are probably wondering. You have a crazy filming schedule, crazy travel schedule, but when you are home, what's your home life like? I don't think I've ever asked you that, but what's your home life like?
My home life is just incredibly simple and quiet. I live in a very beautiful place on a mountain above LA. And so when I'm not in a helicopter or airplane flying for a TV show with all of the crazy sights and sounds and adventures and noise of all of that, I just want to be at home at my place in the mountains. And
we've done a podcast and vlog with you in that place, if I'm not mistaken. So I've seen you at home, and it's a nice little dig you got there. It's a nice little home.
Thank you. I try to show it whenever I can on Instagram or TikTok. And lately, a lot of that stuff's been getting a lot of views. People are kind of fascinated by it. I live in a cloud forest on a mountain above LA.
Wow.
It's just my happy place. It's so beautiful and peaceful. And it's just 90 minutes from downtown LA, but it's a cloud forest. So it's just a very peaceful, mystical place. I absolutely love it there. And that's,
I feel like you're always in the air, though. If this is so high up above LA, it seems like you're still in the air somewhat.
It is. It's the road to my house in the mountains above LA. It's like a Jack and the Beanstalk adventure. You drive through the clouds. So you come up from the city of Los Angeles, you drive up, you get into the clouds. So you're driving in the fog. You come out of the clouds, and now you're on top of the clouds. And then sometimes my house is 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 feet above the clouds. So you get to my house and you look way down below and you can see the tops of the clouds.
All right. I feel like people, and including myself, feel like you're a very mystical figure sometimes. So do these interviews make people realize, oh, he's a human. He's not just flying all over the place. He actually has a life. He actually is a person. He's not just some mystical creature flying all over the place, giving us great content.
Oh, that's a great question, because when I started writing the books, because of the crimes that were happening at the school bus stop, I decided to mostly make the books just stories of my life, including the school bus stop. And as I started to write the stories, I thought, well, if I'm honest about a lot of my adventures, it's, I have problems sometimes just because I do stupid things. And so I said,
you want to tell us one?
Yeah, sure. So for example, one example is I went to film in a helicopter for a cell phone commercial in Peru. And there were many things that happened on the commercial that caused the production crew of the commercial to get arrested and put in jail. And I should have known better than to be a part of any of that. There were so many opportunities I could have pulled the plug and put a stop to me being involved in it. And I was just too dumb to really think of any of that. So I waltzed right into a really, really crazy, dangerous situation.
You were arrested in Peru. Huh.
I was detained and didn't go to jail, but I could have spent the rest of my life in jail in Peru just because I really hadn't done anything to help myself get out of trouble. And so in my book, I admit to all of that. I mean, it's because it's kind of funny just to see how many stupid things I did. And as a result of my own choices, I wound up basically in a country where I didn't speak the language. We had been on the front page of the Peruvian newspaper as having destroyed the ancient ruins of Peru with a helicopter. And it would almost be like if you opened up the New York Times and it says, filmmakers from France flew over and knocked the top off the Empire State Building or something. And
right, because those ruins are very, very special in Peru. So
Well,
I,
one of the ruins is the symbol of Peru. And they said that in the newspaper, the national newspaper of Peru said that we destroyed the ruins. And literally it was just a bunch of nonsense of mostly with political corruption and stuff that was going on. And I just was too dumb to know how to get myself out of harm's way and out of there. And so I managed to escape Peru, and I had help to get out of the country. And as I started to write those stories, originally the books were entitled Worth Fighting For, because they're primarily, to begin with, the books are about the school bus stop and getting the criminals out of there. And as I wrote stories like the Peruvian story, my friend who was helping me read and edit the book, he said, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but you need to call your book Help from Above." So I said, "Oh, okay." So that's how the Help from Above series came to be. I said, "Okay." So I changed the title. And
because you believe in God, don't you? I know he's part of your life too.
oh yeah, I've definitely been helped by someone, by a higher power, someone I can't see. You know, there's no reason I should have gotten out of Peru. I did everything wrong, and yet I was very much helped. And I've always felt helped and guided and protected and blessed, even though I time and again wander into very dangerous situations. I mean, the situation at the school bus stop was something that none of my neighbors would do anything about. Once they realized how dangerous these guys were, they didn't want anything to do with it. They weren't going to go protest or give a speech at City Hall to get these guys out of there. They were just afraid of the bad guys. And so for me to fight with them for 5 years to get them out of the school bus stop and away from the kids was something that none of my neighbors would do. They're just too smart for that.
And you survived, but you survived. Might have been stubborn, but you survived. Hang on one. Work-life balance, anyway. So let's cover this, because I feel like talking about the NFL draft pales in comparison to what you just described you underwent. So let me shift the conversation a little bit. Those who find themselves in trouble and can survive it like you have time and time again, what's your message? And to those who want to adapt and learn from their mistakes, what's your message to that too?
I'm a big believer that you shouldn't live in fear. I believe that if you are afraid of something like a criminal gang at the school bus stop, I believe that you shouldn't live in fear. I think you should live your life, and I think you should take a step, whatever that means, to protect yourself. I pray every day. I definitely believe that I need help from above to get through my life. And so I always need help to handle challenges, or to know the right thing to do, or to just, escape a dangerous situation. But I believe you shouldn't live in fear.
All right. Now back to the NFL draft really quickly, because you are covering that at the end of the month. You're a busy man this month, I'll tell you. It's going to be indoors, or is it outdoors? And how are you covering it? Because obviously, if it's indoors, what angles are they looking for? And tell us where it's at this year.
I haven't heard the details. I will be flying in a helicopter in Las Vegas, over the NFL draft. And it'll be interesting to see how it all is staged.
Only 21 players right now have committed to go, which is kind of astounding, to be honest.
I think it's interesting. You mentioned social media. I'm starting to come across NFL players on social media, and of course I follow them. And one of them followed me back on TikTok and Instagram, and he's a free agent this year. And so I'm really curious to see how it shakes out, and like what deals get made. I think it's kind of neat.
Unlike the guy in Vegas now, David Carr just got locked up for quite a few years with the Raiders. And while I got you here, let me just say this. David shot the final game for the Raiders at Oakland Coliseum before they moved to Vegas. So you've got that under your belt as well there, David.
I did. And we were one of the only cameras at the end of the game that was still working, because people probably don't know this, but they were afraid that the Raiders fans were going to tear the place down and riot after the game because the team's leaving. So Monday Night Football pulled all the cameras back and took them off the field because they were afraid it would be a very violent scene. So my camera was one of the only cameras, because I'm in a helicopter. I don't have to pull back anywhere. I'm just flying over the place. And so we had one of the only shots of the stadium after the game because all the other cameras had been shut down and
but they didn't storm the field that I had seen. I mean, they didn't really storm the field or anything.
No, I think at any big sporting event, there's a lot of security. They prepare for riots and things, but especially in Oakland, the authorities were on guard, and they were keenly aware that it could be a riot at the end of their last game at the stadium in Oakland.
David, thank you so much for coming on Alex Garrett Nightly, and let's do this again. Maybe do a recap of your adventures in Boston and what was on TV, and of course the draft. Let's reconnect in May.
I would love that. Let's do it. And, I follow you on social media. I love following your adventures and seeing what's happening in New York.
I've been traveling. I went to LA and Texas. So I've been out there.
Yeah. Good for you.
It's been fun.
Yeah. I next time we talk, I want to hear more of your stories.
Well, we will. But this was the David Allen time because I haven't been caught up with you for a bit. So thanks for joining me tonight on Alex.
God bless you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to talk to you and your audience.